to Christianity Now Streams. We hope you're subscribed and we hope you enjoy the topic for today. Today we're talking about a controversial topic that, quite frankly, stirs up a lot of trouble everywhere it goes. And that's this idea of what we wear to worship service or to Bible class. Why is it that this causes so much controversy? Well, is it about respect, tradition, or something deeper perhaps? The reason you're getting this video today is because for the last week or two, I've been seeing this meme going around on Facebook. Notice this family of five. They look to be middle class, upper middle class, 1950s, 1960s. When you get into this kind of dress and stuff, I lose the time period. I'm thinking it's probably mid to late 50s, early 60s at the latest. And the tag is when people dressed for church like they were going to see Jesus. And I suppose the implication is if you don't dress like that, then you don't feel like you're going to see Jesus. If that's your attitude, that is absolutely wrong. It's dead wrong. It's judgmental. It's in violation of several scriptures. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by listing all of them. But that being said, I do have a caveat here. You can go starting wherever you are and head east or west and keep going in that same direction until you circumnavigate the globe. And in every culture you come across, when you want to show respect and gravity for a situation, you do not wear common clothing. You quote unquote dress up. What in the world is wrong with, on the Lord's Day, Sunday, for the worship service, having a different set of attire? I remember whenever I was a child and I would be dressed by my mother on Sunday morning, we had our Sunday go to meeting clothes. Now, granted, we grew up in the deep country. We worked hard. We had about a 300-acre apple farm that we managed. I say we like I was doing anything that young, but you understand what I mean. And we lived in a very rural area. Like I said, it was the deep country. And we went to a little small congregation, the Mount Zion Church of Christ. And everybody there was dressed in their Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. Now, I do want to insert something here. It is kind of foolish to me, and I realized this from a very early age, that this mantra of, well, you want to give your best to God, so you dress in your best clothes. I think that's kind of absurd. For one, if your wife still has her wedding dress, that's the best dress she's ever owned. So according to that principle, your wife would want to dress up in her wedding dress. Well, I think that's absurd, quite frankly. But you cannot deny that if you were going to go see a secular official, somebody of utmost importance, you would try to dress to the occasion. Now, I know that there are people who say they wouldn't do it. I watch some political pundits and such like on the internet, and there's one particular that comes to mind who always wears a beanie, and he swears up and down that if he were going to go see the president of the United States himself, he would wear his clothes that he wears every day. I suppose I can understand that. You know, I went through a period of time throughout the years, not too long ago, back in 2010 to about 2013 there for about 3 or 4 years. I almost took a vow never to wear a coat and tie. Then I went to a seminary school in Memphis, Tennessee, where the uniform was a button-down collared shirt with a tie and a pair of khaki pants or some other kind of dress pants. And then if you went to worship you went to worship on Sunday, but going to worship on Sunday, you wore a coat with that ensemble. But I willingly submitted myself to the rules of that school, and so did every other student. So it wasn't any kind of religious thing. It's just that was the rules of the school. And if you wanted to attend the school and graduate, that's what you did. But when I graduated, I came really, really close to taking a vow that I would never, ever wear a coat and tie in the pulpit again. And even today, 10 years later, I typically wear a pair of blue jeans, a button-down shirt, and a suit coat jacket like a blazer or something. I've been a long time since I've worn a tie. Now, why do I say all of that? Well, I'm not any less holy than somebody that wears a three-piece suit. I think the problem is is both extremes. And I think maybe the reason the controversy is so sharp, I think folks just don't like being told what to do. I think folks just don't like feeling shame. And folks are so egocentric and they think everything is about them, to the point where if somebody shares a meme like this, they look at it and they can't just observe the Passover and scroll on by it. I remember talking to a person who does very professional quality videos, and he would release them on DVD back in the day. And there's a video about what to wear to church, how we dress. And how we dress, right, wrong, or indifferent, conveys something about what we think about what we're doing. And I told that man one time about how much I appreciated his video, and he thanked me, and he said, "You don't understand how much backlash I got from that video." Folks, the only thing in the video was, perhaps whenever we decide what to wear to worship service, we need to be as purposeful with what we wear as we are with everything else. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent, what you wear communicates something about what you think about what you're doing. I remember whenever I was very young at the Mount Zion Church of Christ, we had some youngsters, and he would get up to lead a song or lead a prayer, and he would be in a t-shirt and jeans, and some of the older folks didn't like that, but he was young and he was in training, as it were. But then he would start to get up and he would have lewd advertisements on his shirt, or he would have a beer manufacturer on his shirt advertising for alcohol and such like. Well, we had to talk to him about that. So I don't think anybody's going that far saying that I can have a Corona beer shirt on, or a Bud Light beer shirt on, or anything like that, or a scantily clad woman. But I also don't think that somebody also on the other side is going so far as to say, if you're a man and you don't wear a coat, a tie, and dress pants, that you're going to hell and can't be pleasing to God if you don't own that particular ensemble. I know many people, many people who they don't have clothes like that. They don't have those Connecticut casual or business casual. They have a pair of khaki pants, a 3-button golf shirt like a polo, and they'll put a belt, and they'll have Sunday go to meeting shoes. I even know some old farmers that they have 3 or 4 pair of overalls in rotation that they wear while they're working. But every Christmas or every birthday, one of the two, they get a brand new pair of overalls, and the only place those overalls get worn for an entire year, 52 times, they get worn to Sunday meeting. And after that year's up, they get that brand new pair of overalls, and that previous year's Sunday go to meeting overalls gets bumped down into the rotation. Folks, this is such a non-issue, but I think what I see, and this is very sad, is that these older folks who like to dress up, who like to wear a suit and a tie, they are being ridiculed by these younger folk. And I don't think God's pleased with that at all. I've got a few little notes here about the controversy surrounding dressing up for church services. You know, scriptural interpretations can be an issue. Biblical passages about modesty and appearances are subject to varied interpretations. Some individuals and congregations emphasize passages like 1 Timothy 2:9, which advise women to dress modestly and discreetly, as a guideline for all churchgoers. And quite frankly, it is. Well, discreetly might be a little bit open to interpretation. You know, I remember from my youth, a woman in the congregation at Mount Zion Church of Christ, and what she wore was rather indiscreet at times for the deep country rural area which we were in. But everybody chalked it up to eccentricity, and nobody judged her. Another scripture that people could focus on is 1 Samuel 16:7, where Samuel is sent down to anoint the second king of Israel. And God tells Samuel, don't look at these guys that you're going to be parading in front of you. Don't look at their stature. Don't look at their strength. Don't look at their broad shoulders. Don't look at the outside. God does not look at men the way men look at men. God is more concerned with what's on the inside. So I think sometimes what people do is they'll say, well, because God is more concerned with what's on the inside, he doesn't care at all about what's on the outside. And that's just absolutely false. That's like saying, well, God doesn't care as much about the physical as he does about the spiritual. Therefore, it doesn't matter what I do in my body. Without getting too deep into it, go study 1 Corinthians. Those people in 1 Corinthians kind of had that attitude, and Paul had to set them straight. What you do in your body affects your spiritual self. So what about cultural and historical context? You know, attitudes towards dress in church, they've evolved over time, and they differ across culture. Historically, wearing one's best clothes to church was a sign of respect and honor towards God. However, in contemporary society, especially in Western culture, in modernity, Western culture now often values casualness and individual expression. And that's influenced church attire to be more relaxed. There's nothing wrong with that. That still doesn't negate the fact that we need to be purposeful in what we wear. Personal beliefs about modesty, respect, and expression play a significant role into this conversation and subsequent controversy. You know, some individuals feel that dressing up for church is part of honoring God, while others believe that God accepts worshipers regardless of their attire, which he does, but some folks take that to the extreme where they think that it is virtuous to see how slovenly you can dress and still come to church and worship. And then, of course, there's these socioeconomic factors. You know, there's sensitivity to not exclude people or to shame people who may not have the means to dress up. I get it. Your heart's in the right place. So churches striving for inclusivity might encourage casual dress to avoid making anyone feel uncomfortable or unwelcome in their attire or based on attire. But that doesn't change the fact that it doesn't matter what culture you are in, where you are in the world, if you want to show respect, you dress up. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean a coat and a tie and a three-piece suit, but it doesn't not mean that either. Now, here's where I think things turn somewhat nefarious. Perceived hypocrisy. Some critics argue that an overemphasis on dressing up can lead to vanity or a focus on outward appearances, which can be seen as contrary to the Christian emphasis on humility and inward spiritual growth. Folks, I think that's the key. I think that is the keystone to this arch of controversy, and the path through that arch is prejudiced, bigotry. You don't want to wear a coat and tie. So you look at these scriptures that teach about the inward man and how God sees, and you take that as license to dress any way you want to dress. So then what you do is you attack people that hold themselves to a higher standard than you. It may be because you have a sense of shame for yourself. It may be because you don't want to sit by somebody in a coat and tie and you feel bad about your attire. That's a you problem. That's not a them problem. I cannot help how I make you feel simply by my existence. When I go to worship on Sunday morning, I'm not going to wear the same clothes that I wear out in the field on Friday or Saturday. I'm not going to wear the same clothes on Sunday morning that I wear to work on Saturday or Friday or Monday. I'm going to try my best to make this separate. I'm going to have everything that I do worshiping God purposeful and given to God. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't dress just like me, you're going to hell. But if it is the case that you are prescribing intent and motive to the way somebody dresses, and you interpret the fact that they're dressing in a coat and tie or a dress, a nice dress or something like that, that's some kind of indictment of you in their mind, that's a you problem. And you need to fix it. Maybe we don't need to share so much stuff on the internet. I believe the role of shame in the controversy over dressing up for church services is indeed a significant aspect to consider. I mean, nobody wants to feel judged. Individuals who choose not to dress up for church may well feel judged or looked down upon by those who do. This sense of judgment, whether real or perceived, can lead to feelings of shame and inadequacy, but it is not the person who dresses up's fault. We've got to fix this. You got to fix yourself. You can only control yourself. And again, going back to socioeconomic factors, those who cannot afford formal attire might experience shame in a setting where dressing up is the norm. They may feel out of place or embarrassed about their inability to conform to expected dress codes. I think here in a congregation, the leadership needs to model behavior, and the leadership needs to make sure that public communication is taking place that teaches about this very topic. You know, it could be that there's a perceived laziness in not dressing up versus an effort into dressing up. The idea that not dressing up is a sign of laziness could be a source of tension. Some may perceive others who dress casually for church as not putting enough effort or not showing enough respect, which can lead to feelings of resentment or shame on both sides. This is where open communication needs to take place. This is where communication from the leadership needs to take place. It wouldn't hurt in the eldership of a congregation if there's this tension in the congregation. Maybe every once in a while, the elders need to get together and say, you know what? Everybody is so bent in the congregation on formal attire. Let's take one Sunday a month and come to worship in more casual attire to show the congregation that there's nothing wrong with it. And then, of course, there's the internalized expectations. You know, for some, the tradition of dressing up is deeply ingrained. Deviating from this norm, whether by personal choice or circumstances, might cause internal conflict and shame. This is the reverse. The people who dress up in a three-piece suit, they don't need to look down upon people who don't, and they don't need to make the people who don't feel shame. But the people who don't dress up don't need to impose their will over the people who do, because that would make them feel shame. Spiritual worthiness. Whatever you're wearing does not dictate your spiritual worthiness. You know, there might be a perception that dressing well for church is linked to holiness or spiritual worthiness. Those who dress up may feel more pious or devout, potentially shaming those who dress more casually, and incidentally, vice versa. What's the remedy? Open communication and leadership from the leadership. Modeling behavior. In church communities where dressing up is an unspoken rule, those who don't conform might feel alienated or shamed, leading to tension within the congregation. This is community dynamics. This is congregational dynamics. This is where the eldership needs to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on and lead by example. You don't sweep problems under the rug. You don't ignore things because they fester and then your congregation will implode. Just deal with it. Lean into it. Never underestimate the power of brutal transparency and honesty, radical transparency and honesty. If the congregation where you are has this controversy, this tension in it, all of the elders need to go behind the pulpit, and they have one spokesman, but all the elders are behind them. So they are a force that is united. And you need to address this and address the congregation and say, listen, God has no dress code. There's no book, chapter, and verse in the Bible that is a dress code. If you want to dress in a 3-piece suit, God bless you. If you want to come in more casual attire, God bless you. Just don't violate any scriptures where God has legislated and you'll be fine. This can be a complex and multifaceted issue, but I think the thing we might need to do is stop sharing memes like this on the internet and be way more understanding of our brothers and sisters who don't hold exactly the same convictions as we. And if you see a meme like this on the internet, don't go and pick a fight, because guess what? 99 times out of 100, it wasn't about you. I don't know who sung this song, but I remember the song, "You're So Vain." You probably think this song is about you. Are you so vain you probably think that meme is about you? The person that shared this meme was not saying that you can't be holy unless you wear a 3-piece suit. The thrust of the meme is we need to be purposeful with what we wear. If we wear casual attire, if we wear formal attire, whatever, let's understand that what we are doing is going before Almighty God. And we are worshiping the Creator of the universe in His presence. Maybe we think a little bit about that. I hope I've said something here that's helped you. I hope that I've encouraged you maybe to observe the Passover on things whenever you see them on Facebook. And I hope that if before you were dead set against any kind of dressing up, I think it's a net positive if everybody in Christendom would wear the clothes of their culture that shows respect and communicates respect, whatever that is. That's all I've got here, folks. It's been Tony Brewer with Cogitations of Christianity Now. I hope you like, subscribe, and share, and consider supporting us. And the ways to do that will be in the show notes. God bless, and we'll catch you on the next one.